Happy holidays, folks. It is so bad it's good. The Pop Culture Roundup. And this Monday, I've given myself a gift as well as all of you guys because we have a legend, somebody I've known now for years, somebody that I guess I kind of started with because I don't think I knew I was going to be doing this. And I don't think he knew he was going to be doing this. And it is so funny how time flies and you see where we're both at now. Now, he is the co host of the insanely successful podcast and amazing podcast Beyond the Blinds with our good friend Kelly Laguna Biatch. But he's just such a great person. Let's just start with that. A great person, but also just what I call a historian of these things that deserve to be studied about. And I think a lot of us now put like pop culture connoisseur or pop culture commentator. I do it myself. And this to me is a real historian, a real commentator, somebody that's earned that badge throughout his entire life. And we get to hear that weekly now. So without further ado, the one, the only, calling in from New Jersey, Troy McEady.
Can I get you to write that down for my funeral?
Yeah, by the way, this is my funeral, Troy. So yeah, I'll definitely. I mean, I do sometimes wonder what we'll put on our tombstones. And I was thinking for mine would be like Lincoln bio, maybe.
I gotta put something about Britney on my tombstone, or else it's like, what was the point of even living?
Well, I mean, we'll get to Britney in a second, but I do. This is a very special episode for Troy because this is going to be an hour of Taylor Swift, wall to wall Taylor Swift. He requested it. I was like, if you want to talk about, I was like, I'm not so sure, but he was like, I want to talk Taylor for a full hour. But I will say, is it
to the computer?
No, I mean, it is weird because we don't. I mean, she's been such a phenomenon of this year, and I guess a lot of years, but this year in particular, that I do wonder about the exhaustion level for Taylor Swift and her fans, because there's only so much money that we have, that people have. And I do wonder, and I was leading to a bigger conversation, and a question for you is, pop culture now seems to be at an all-time high in studying it. Like I was noticing there's a documentary now on Gwyneth Paltrow's ski trial. There's a documentary on Nicole Peltz's wedding with the Beckham kid. Are we overstudying pop culture? Do you think there's a saturation point that's happening by chance?
I think that there's a saturation that's happening. I think that a lot of people listen to podcasts and they watch documentaries and they think like, I could do that. And like they can, there's nothing saying that you can't, which is why everybody is now doing it. But I do think it's like having a hot take is not enough to start a podcast or to like think that you need to like do a documentary about something, just in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, like I was like thinking today, like there could be a documentary today on Taylor Swift flying her private jet to these Chiefs games. Like there, we're now putting a microscope on everything. And I just sometimes wonder if it's going to hold, if this boat is taking on water, or if we're going to keep intensifying, because to me, it seems like when we were growing up, there used to be, like the cable TV, the MTV, the Us Weekly, and now it's exploded and it's becoming more niche at times. So you have these big ones like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, I guess Britney to a degree still because of her book and just the phenomenon around studying her behavior. But I do wonder are we potentially getting to a point where, like I feel like we, for all intents and purposes, movie stars are done. We're done with movie stars.
Well, I think for me, the big problem is that there's no like specific place that we go to now to watch celebrities have to like be interviewed or answer questions. Like there is Oprah, but there's like not, there's no like 4 p.m. Oprah every day. There's no like Barbara Walters, most fascinating people. There's no 2020. There's no Dateline. There's no like, there's no place for us to watch celebrities be held accountable for things. And now you have people, just regular people, that get these celebrity interviews and they're all over the internet. And it just kind of doesn't, I don't know. I love it because there's more access, but I'm also like, it doesn't hit the same as watching Oprah Winfrey interview somebody at 8 p.m.,
Oh my, or even I would actually even throw in Wendy Williams to a degree. of
Yes,
having
absolutely.
Wendy every day talking about pop culture. I thought that was kind of special and unique. But I mean, I remember the excitement of Tom Cruise sitting with Oprah and Tom Cruise freaking the fuck out. Like that was, and to me, that was even before quote unquote memes. And I was like, this is amazing that he did this. Or the Tom Cruise Matt Lauer interview on the War of the Worlds press tour. We don't really have those. Like if they happen, they can sometimes get lost in the shuffle, weirdly enough, because it's everywhere now.
Yeah, and like to know, like I always say, I feel kind of bad for people, like younger people who have their favorites. Like, say if you're like a 21-year-old and you love Billie Eilish, it's like, where are you really watching Billie Eilish be an icon? Like, you're not watching TRL, you're not watching MTV, you're not watching Oprah devote an entire hour to her and ask her really
Yeah.
intense questions. You just don't have that. It's like if all we have is Zayn of iTunes, you know what I mean? It's just like it's kind of a sad
I
limit.
say, well, dude, yeah, Zane Lowe. I will say, I even get frustrated. I'm like, how did Zane Lowe, guys? He's like the Apple Music guy, and he gets the the big interviews. But it is interesting. I don't have the same excitement over Zane Lowe that I did, like you said, for Oprah or Barbara Walters or any of those people. And like last night, I watched SNL, which I still self harm myself every week and watch SNL. And then I went on my least favorite platform, Twitter, because I'm a masochist, and I typed in SNL. And I will say, like they announced in January they're coming back with Jacob Elordi and Renee Rapp. And I saw these people like really excited that Renee Rapp, like, oh girl. And that made my heart feel good, because I was like, I love when people get excited about things, even though I don't, I've listened to Renee Rapp's album. I think I might be past the age of really fangirling over Renee Rapp. Who knows? But it made me feel good that like people were excited about something. It's just weird when you're trying to like, I want to catch that excitement. I want to hear that. I want to feel that. And I guess as we near the end of the year, I just wonder, where we're at with pop culture. And I hate to sound like two old fogies going, in my day, we used to get hard copies of Us Weekly.
Well, I don't know. I can only speak for myself, but I feel like I'm kind of on autopilot. Like I just the news comes at
Yes.
me and I read it and I'm not by anything anymore. And I'm like, all right, like that's a thing that we'll talk about. And like nothing really like makes me freak out. Like I don't have that like running through the living room freaking out,
Yeah.
like looking at Twitter over and over. Like I just don't really feel that about stuff as much as I used to.
I know, and that's the thing, is that all we have is our internal clocks, is our like what like really we respond to. And I will notice even with Housewives, because I cover it now so much, like I don't like I was more excited to watch Survivor this week than I was Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, because I don't cover Survivor. So I get to watch that as a viewer. I don't have to
Yeah,
worry about quote unquote hot takes.
right.
And it was weird, because I was just like, to me now, sometimes with Bravo, it's like time to make the donuts, time to talk about what I do for a living, which is so. But by the way, I realize how I potentially sound like an asshole, but it is weird because I love being excited about things. Like that's what I love that the most. But you guys, you and Kelly, you talk about this. But I remember you back in the day in your closet smoking cigarettes. You were doing exhaustive notes and research for the Smush Room back in the day, and it was a true joy, because that was you were like the evolution of who I was as a kid, and I just thought it is interesting to like what we would now freak out about. So that is such a I don't know. I don't know. I hate this to sound sad, you guys. I'm not sad about it, but it is interesting because I do wonder where we go from here.
Well, I do. It's interesting that you bring up the Housewives because it's like for me, I don't get excited as much as I used to about like a TMZ alert, right? For you, like the Bravo
Yeah.
universe is not as exciting maybe as it was years ago. Maybe it's just because we're so inundated with certain things. Because I will say I still get like Bravo is like the one thing that still like jolts me. It like Don't Wake Daddy. It's like I still get a little buzz from Bravo because I don't. I guess it's not like my full time gig, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean your full time gig right now is speculating about Bradley Cooper and the Maestro rollout, and I was like,
Yeah,
I was listening to you had a great episode this past week with her name Kyle Marissa Roth, is that
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you were doing predictions for 2024. Could you share a couple of your predictions for 2024 in pop culture?
Sure. My biggest prediction. So my biggest prediction for 2023 was that Diddy would get canceled, and I was saying that he would either get canceled like the month before the year would end, or like a little bit after. But I didn't think he would make it into 2024 not being canceled, and that was like my witch moment, right? So now my
Yeah.
prediction is that I think Jay-Z won't necessarily get canceled in the same way because he's smart and he's really powerful and he's not an idiot like Diddy. He doesn't like start fires and then walk away from them. But I do think that more people will become aware that Jay-Z is like this Phantom of the Opera that like lurks in the shadows behind Beyonce.
Well, I mean, he's definitely dancing at every one of those Renaissance tours. He was always out there. My worst moment of 2023 was watching Corey Gamble dance with him and Chris Jenner. And I was like, oh, God, what is the world? By the way, I hate to go on a tangent, but this Corey Gamble, you guys, my 2024 prediction, something's going to come out about Corey Gamble because this guy did a promotion for the Renaissance movie tour. And his whole promotion was 10 slides of Corey Gamble, like Corey Gamble by a private jet. Corey Gamble. There was like barely any Beyonce in Corey Gamble's promotion of the Beyonce movie. It's
But all
ridiculous.
in silks. Him in silks, no matter where he is.
Troy, do you think there's a possibility that we could ever do maybe I'll show up to one of your shows in Corey Gamble's silk jammy set and present you with one of the Corey Gamble silk jammy jam sets? Maybe
Honestly,
Kelly could do one too.
I want it to be as bright as possible. I love his like neon orange and like highlighter yellow silks. Those are my favorite.
Do you think Chris Jenner was like, sure, I'll let you have your silk jammy moment? Like, Chris Jenner seems to be the one. Also, we found out this year on the Kardashians, if you do cheat on a Kardashian woman, your future is limitless. Like, Chris Jenner will get you a job at ESPN if you make a fool of her daughter like 3 or 4 times. Like, Chris Jenner made a call to Disney to get him to be a sports broadcaster, Tristan Thompson. And I just thought that's wild. And so it kind of shows you, we've talked about this many times. I just think the Chris Jenner of it all, Chris Jenner could actually rehab Diddy and Jay-Z's image if she ever needed to.
Listen, as long as you are a man who is willing to be a Kramer on that television show, if you're willing to pop in through a window and say some kooky line or do some dog psychic visit or whatever, she will take care of you. Like Scott,
Hey,
I mean,
it's me, Scott Disick. I'm Scott. Hey, I just come in and do funny. Hey, Clojo, I love you, Clojo. All right. He loves it.
Chris is like, thank you for punching your time card. That'll be another year. Thank you.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, going back to the Jay-Z of it all, though, and I just want to point out, Troy is in New Jersey, and he's hiding out currently from Diddy's PR team and Jay-Z's PR team at this point as well. But I also want to let you know, if there's a little pause in between things, it's just because of a Wi-Fi connection, guys. I know Troy is deeply thinking about these goofy questions I'm asking, but I just want to let you know that up front. But in terms of Diddy kind of, a billionaire, all of these things finally came out that you have known for a while, that a lot of us have known for a while. How do you think Diddy even I mean, because he got removed from his Revolt TV, right? Like, he owned Revolt. He got removed from that. He's going to get removed from a lot of other things. Where do you think his career goes? And in terms of Jay-Z, what are you, speculating about in terms of him? Because we've always, I still go back to the iconic photo of them coming out of the elevator, which was one of the most exciting photos of my life, watching Solange go out of that elevator where Jay-Z's rubbing his cheek like he just got hit. And we still don't know exactly what that is. We speculated a lot, but can you talk about those two people and where Diddy could potentially rehab and what Jay-Z speculating, like what he's done through the years?
Well, I think when it comes to Diddy, I don't know. I think that this is his big one. Like, I think that this is like his Harvey Weinstein moment. I don't think that there's any coming back from this. I think that he is in a state of his life or a stage of his life where he'll just have to like kind of resort to being in the background and live off of his millions and like be reclusive in his mansion. I don't think that he can come back from this because I think people have wanted this information to come out for so long about him, and so many people in the industry have been wronged by him and have had money stolen from him and their masters taken from him or been assaulted by him. So it's like he's burned all of his bridges. Like there's not many people that I think would be willing at this point to put their neck out on the line for him, even to the down to like his bodyguard who has been doing all these crazy tell-alls about him on TikTok, like from the top
I
to the
know.
bottom, you know?
Well, I mean, I think this is the opportune time. Hey, Kanye will probably stick up for you at this point. Kanye will stick up for you. I think that's Kanye and Diddy will get together and talk about how
Yeah.
they're wronged and the deep state and all of that stuff. But with the Puff Daddy stuff, there was even new information that surprised me. Like, were you aware of the Kid Cudi car explosion that was threatened, to his ex, and that actually did happen? And then Kid Cudi, when all this came out like a month ago, confirmed, yeah, my car did blow up in my driveway.
I was completely unaware of the Kid Cudi stuff. That was mind-blowing to me. I mean, obviously I knew that he had been kind of holding Cassie hostage for a long time, and like I did do an episode about her for Dunzo where I really studied her career, and I was actually mind blown by how um like forward thinking she was as a kid during MySpace era. Like when she released Me and You, she did that by herself with no label, just through MySpace, and she charted on Billboard by herself. Like she was very bright and had a lot going for her. And then he showed up and was like, "Well, you're mine now." And he's Bowser, so he like took her and like held her captive basically, and was like, "Now you're mine, and your career is mine, and I'll decide when you perform and stuff." And like I knew that, but I didn't know like the attachments to men through Cassie, like the infighting, you know?
Yeah. Um, I mean, it's interesting because MTV, like, they got us to know Puff Daddy in a different way. And I think we all make it like, oh, it was so funny when he made Making the Band and made him go get Junior Cheesecake. And like, oh, that was so funny. And now, I mean, but like, even think about what he did to Danity Kane and what they've been trying to tell like all of these years, even though we like, oh, that person's crazy. She's just crazy. And then it turns out some of the things that they've said are completely right. He's just a very powerful man that flexes his muscle. Like he's the male Kathy Hilton in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's not been caught on a hot mic moment, unfortunately.
By the way, Lisa Rinna needs to come in and end Diddy. Like, Diddy, it's me, Rinna. You're over, buddy. Apologize. Yeah, sorry. I do Rinna as a demon, Troy, just so you know. That's not an actual Rinna voice.
Rinna comes in with like a Balenciaga trash bag and she's like, "It's time. Own it, baby." She's right. At least Rinna is the one person to handle this correctly.
Wait, Troy, we just have a good TV idea where Rinna comes in and like institutes the cancellation of like, it's time, Jay-Z. I'm going to throw you out with Harry's Bolognese. It's time.
And she's a different like hair system each episode.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just think about how exhausting it is to be Lisa Rinna after Housewives. She has to show up at every red carpet looking like a different Ghostbusters villain every time. It's got to be so exhausting to have that kind of fame at that age. Like, I mean, I think she's convinced herself she likes it, but it's got to be exhausting.
I think Yolanda Foster must wake up in cold sweats because Lisa Rinna is like nipping at her heels at every single moment of the day.
Yolanda's just happy she doesn't have to sit around a piano all day, like hearing David Foster tickling the ivories.
Oh God, singing like chestnuts roasting over the fire.
Oh my God. I never, it's like funny. Babyface had this amazing career or has this amazing career. And my number one Babyface memory is just how many times David Foster trotted him out during the Housewives.
I forgot about that.
Well, then moving on to Jay-Z, though, like Jay-Z, there's been so many rumors. I mean, he really is a businessman, and not to his credit, but he's not putting out albums. He's not going on tour. He literally has now, since the Lemonade album, been kind of a model husband in a lot of ways. What have we heard about Jay-Z through the years, or why do you speculate that in 2024 something potentially will come out about Jay-Z finally?
Well, I think that Jay-Z is really smart. I think that he covers his bases well, and I think that like in the last like 7 to 8 years, he's really come to terms with the fact that Beyonce is the face of their relationship. And like the tables turned. Like at the beginning, it was like, what a come up for Beyonce to get Jay-Z, how cool it is for her to be on a song with him, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then at a certain point, like he became kind of like not cool. Like he became like the dad rock of rap in a way. And Beyonce is like now the public facing. She's the one that is like, she's a media maven. She's so good at controlling the narrative. Like she's making the money, you know? And I think that he's smart to hide behind her because it just kind of it like erases him from people's minds in a smart way, but he's also like can come out and sing Deja Vu with her on tour and it's like not weird. But as far as like his past, I just think, you know, a lot of the stuff that Pete I never know what to call Diddy. Ew, Diddy.
I
Um
know he's changed his name so much. It's like, let's do like City for like cancel Diddy, like Diddy or something, something fun. I mean, he will
it's
find a way to rebrand as like something of like this has been done against him. And I
yeah.
don't know. It'll be interesting to see because also with these people and Jay-Z included, they don't like. We've seen it with Johnny Depp. We've seen it even with Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein is still fighting his cases. These people didn't get to where they were because they just lay down.
1000%. And sometimes it's just right in front of your face. Like, but we've gotten so used to reading about it that it feels normal. Like, Jay-Z's relationship with Aaliyah is not normal to me. And
Wait,
Aaliyah
to
being,
Aaliyah, you said?
yeah,
Okay. Rest in
I just,
peace.
it's unsavory and it's weird. And she was so young. And I believe, unfortunately, like these men around her were kind of like, you know, fighting over her and like passing her around in a really dark way. And it's Diddy. It's just like Diddy. I mean, Foxy Brown was like 14 or 15 years old when she started her career, and everybody knows that he was sleeping with her as underage. And hello, look no further than Rihanna. If you expect me to believe that 15, 16-year-old Rihanna straight from Barbados who Jay-Z was the only one that really knew her at that point, and she was under his thumb. If you expect me to believe that he wasn't sleeping with a teenage Rihanna, come on. Same thing with Rita Ora. Like there's
Wait,
so many women.
Troy, she was only 16 when she came over?
He discovered
Rihanna?
her as a teenager. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
And Rita Ora, yeah, because I heard the rumors about Rita Ora, but that's wild. And then, I mean, in terms of pop culture, though, what then happens when somebody grows up, realizes their behavior was unsavory, not even unsavory, but criminal in certain ways? You know, where do we go from this? And as a culture, I find it interesting. Even I don't really want to talk about Kanye, but I was listening to his rant the other night in Vegas,
Mhm.
which was, you know, I love the people that are like, yeah, listen to him. He's real. Hey, he's spitting truth. I'm like, yeah, he's real spitting truth. But he was talking about how he's like, they were trying to do a surviving Kanye, like surviving R. Kelly, that great show they did a couple years ago. And he mentioned something about that. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't even realize that was in the works, surviving Kanye. But it is interesting, like I mean, what is, I guess when you look fast forward 10 to 15 to 20 years on this behavior, where should things go? Like, what is the appropriate measures to be taken for some of these people? Like, and will it go further with Diddy in terms of he settled, obviously, he settled with his ex immediately after this broke the press. He settled within a day. That was done.
Mhm.
But a lot of other people have come forward. I mean, what do you expect to happen?
Well, I think that unfortunately it's a really, 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 really slow burn because people are very unwilling to accept the truth about people that they love. And I've always subscribed to the idea that like you literally have to separate the art from the artist if you want to indulge in movies and TV shows and music, because you have no choice. Like anything that you engage with in some way is rotted. And I think it's okay to be like, yeah, I love this Jay-Z album, but he's a piece of shit. And like, do I want to
Yeah.
him? No. Do I want to eat dinner with him? No. Do I want to be friends with him? Absolutely not. But I like 99 Problems, and like it just is what it is. And if people can come to terms with that and not feel like they are praying to a church if they buy somebody's album, like it's not that deep. Jay-Z is not a deity. He's not a god. He's just some guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's not
Yeah.
so deep that you can't have those two things be true. But people really struggle with that, you know?
Well, do you think there's something in there of like he's not a god by any sense, but Beyonce, I don't think she necessarily, I mean, I'm not saying she positions herself as a god, but we
Well,
do look to her as a god. And I wonder if Jay-Z at some point said, listen, I can't even touch this. I can't even touch. It's better that I just shut the fuck up and support, because she is on such a, like, her own track right now. That
mhm.
is like, because even if you compare to her and Taylor, which I'm not comparing in the sense of like pitting two women against each other, but she's managed to make just as much money in certain ways, but also have this artistic bent and almost an alternative art sense that Taylor is
Mhm.
not able to have. And I do wonder if that played a part in Jay-Z obviously stepping back of like, yeah, I'll never be that.
So you'll get this when I say this, because I say this all the time. Beyonce, to me, is the last like artist that truly, she presents herself as an old school artist, like in the way that like Michael and Prince used to, and Madonna,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
where it's like, like, yeah, you are human allegedly, like, but you really do kind of present yourself as like an above human, you know. And I like that. Like, I like when an artist is like, no, I'm an artist, like this is, I'm in it,
Yeah.
and you're not gonna catch me at the grocery store like in flip-flops. Like, I live this every single day. I live it, eat it, breathe it. And she's like a Michael Jackson in that way, where she's like, she's fully in her like, I'm a god era, where in the same way that Michael would
Yeah.
like build a statue of himself and it wasn't weird, because we had already been kind of brainwashed to think that he was this like god.
Well, Troy, the statue was a little weird. I mean, the military outfits did get to me towards the end, but you're right. No, I know exactly what you're saying. And you know what's so great about Beyonce is to see her, and she's done this in such a beautiful way is her discovering art. Like her discovering art and like, you know, deeper meanings of art. And I don't mean in the sense of like, oh, the Kardashians bought another James Turrell. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Like, you know, it's like they just thought, they were told that was hip and cool. And then they have this deeper appreciation of it. But Beyonce, it seems, or it reads to me, or that's what she's trying to like, is that she does have this appreciation of art. And she also wants to show herself in this art and create other art from it. And I think that's such an interesting conversation to have. The only thing that scares me when you make that comparison, Troy, is that she has allegedly been able to ground herself with her family and her children, but those other artists you named, Prince, Michael Jackson, are no longer with us. We found out after the fact that Prince had an insane drug issue that he was able to hide from everybody. Michael
Mhm.
Jackson went through so many things. And Madonna, we almost lost Madonna this year, and now she's on her tour and it's going really well. But
Yeah.
I was really scared for Madonna at a certain point. That's the one thing I wonder about in the future with Beyonce is, will she have that element of the bad part of fame and success?
I mean, honestly, I don't think we've ever seen anybody do it like her, and I would not be surprised, because she really is like, she really leans into that like pageant, perfect, nothing, not a thread is out of place, not a note is ever missed. Like, she's always perfect. Like, she is pageantry down all the time. And not even Michael was like that. Like, the level of perfection was, I've never seen an artist like live that way. It's like actually insane. So I'm sure behind the scenes, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, this is a, listen, I'm just saying, like, based on what you said and based on what we've learned from other artists and
Yeah.
their struggle, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Beyonce was like struggling behind the scenes, or like if we found out in like some behind the music type thing in 10 years that this whole time she had some sort of issue, because it's a lot. Like, that pressure must be insane.
Troy Troy McEady from Beyond the Blind says in 2024, we are going to find out a dark secret about Beyonce. He's an expert. Let's lay it down. This is the pull quote, you guys. Please spread this out. Well, speaking of, by the way, I bet one of her secret behind the scenes tragedies is she has a small esophagus. And to separate the art from the artist, I do want to transition to the Housewives, because this week's Beverly Hills, we found out that Sutton has a dainty esophagus, and she was esophagus shamed by newcomer Anna Marie Wiley, who, if you look into Anna Marie, I was already kind of poisoned on her by reading certain things before she popped up. So I am not thrilled. I don't even really enjoy watching her family life scene. Where are you on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this season, Troy?
Well, I just want to first say that as a physician, I just find it weird that you can't swallow food. And I mean, as a doctor, I would know that. I would know if you couldn't swallow food. Like, what the fuck? I was thinking, like, is this really how you're gonna try and introduce? Like, this is your moment. This is your like.
She wants it so bad. She wants it so bad.
Oh,
you can tell.
So pathetic. I'm deep in Beverly Hills, as I always am. Even though I complain about it all the time, I would never miss it. And I just, yeah, the Kyle of it all is interesting. Like, it's crazy to see Kyle finally have like this moment that we've kind of been like inching towards for so many. I mean, it's
13 seasons. 13 seasons.
It's far back as Brandy bringing the tabloids on vacation, you know, like it's been so long and she's kind of fumbling it.
Well, I mean, okay, speaking of fumbling it, though, we had that really important scene where she finally, we were able to talk about Lorene, her best friend, who unalived herself. And we talked about this, you guys, on Friday's recap. And I thought that was a really important scene just to provide a little context. But it is interesting, for 13 seasons, 12 of those, Kyle has kind of fought against sharing personal things and has hid from a lot of things, even though there's the most to dig into with her and her family. It is finally all coming out. And I really was shocked that Kyle decided to still do this season. And I almost feel like there's an ego in it where she potentially should have sat out. I'm glad she didn't, but it's all coming out because you got Mauricio, you got her friend, you've got her working out and not drinking anymore, and you've got I'm Morgan Wade. She stalked me. We got the Morgan Wade of it all. Like, it is a lot for her to handle because she's used to not sharing anything. So essentially, you've had this interesting fight of Sutton and Kyle going head to head. And at the end of the day, if you don't even like Sutton, you guys, that's fine. But Sutton is right. Something's going on with you, Kyle. Something's going on with you. And do you find it fascinating of Sutton and Garcelle, to a degree, Garcelle better, but trying to bring it onto the show? It's almost like these shows are Survivor and they're trying to pull it into the light so they can talk about it. And Kyle's trying to be like, you have a small esophagus. Let's talk about that.
Well, it's funny because it's like, this is one of the first times we've ever seen Kyle not have somebody to be able to hide behind, right? She can't hide behind Kathy.
Yep.
She can't hide behind Kim. She can't hide behind her sister being an addict. She can't hide behind her family trauma and how they grew up and Big Calf. None of those things can hide her from this moment where it's like, what is really going on with your marriage? And has he just been openly cheating on you for your entire relationship? Which is what everybody has always said, you know? And I mean, it was just such a, you would think that for somebody who was so, because a lot of people will say, that Kyle produces the show and she has a lot of control over who's fired and who's not and whatever. And you would think that for somebody who's basically like, what's it called when you're like a higher up in football, like a MVP or something?
Yeah, I love that Troy asked me like I'm an fucking coach, like a coach.
You're an
most executive, like
player or whatever. Yeah. You're not on the bench, that's for sure. You're Kyle fucking Richard. And you would think that after so many years, like she would be a little bit more equipped to handle this, but she's spiraling out like a new housewife.
Well, it's the first time we've seen her in this position, and that's what I find interesting about watching the show. But it's always interesting to watch these shows. As I get further into watching them, it's like you watch the show that the producers are presenting, but then there's a show behind the show where you're watching everybody fight to keep storylines off, to get storylines on. Anna Marie's trying to make her bones, like Angie Katsunavis on Salt Lake City. You could tell she had like a similar desperation, but she doesn't do it as like, it's almost funny when Angie does it because she's so, there's a goofiness to it that I don't even think she realizes she has. But with Anna Marie, you're just like, dude, like it's already exhausting and you've only been in 2 episodes. But it is this game that I find interesting to watch. And Sutton has so many little peccadillos and quirks about her that she's an unreliable narrator. So we want, a lot of people be like, oh, well, fuck Sutton. Like, I don't even like, she's a kook. But Sutton does have a point, and Kyle is using that a lot of people just kind of think that Sutton's crazy to keep her stuff from coming out. But it is seeming like, Anne, aren't you excited to find out? We saw in the midseason trailer when the other women start talking about Morgan.
Oh my god. First of all, okay, let me just add to your Sutton point because I was talking about this last night with my friend Katie. So Sutton is like really interesting because she's not necessarily the housewife that's equipped to like make the full ass touchdown, but she has the ball. But she's just not that girl. Like Sutton is not like I wouldn't even consider Sutton to really be like a diamond holder. Like I would almost say that Sutton would be a better friend. She's just not the person who can like
How dare you, Troy? How dare you? What are you saying? Listen, that's uncalled for, but I think what you're saying, like, she's not an early season Rinna. Like, Rinna, before she lost control, was great at taking the ball and running with it, and she got really sloppy towards the end, but she's not that. Like, it's somebody that doesn't know how to use their powers, but they have a power.
But they have it, and she doesn't know. It's like she doesn't know how to hold Kyle accountable the way Lisa Vanderpump used to. When Lisa Vanderpump was on this show,
yes,
Kyle was like she was such a good girl. You know what I mean? Like she knew better.
Yeah.
Totally out of line because Lisa Vanderpump would get her fucking together, and now there's nobody to really like gather her and get her together. And Sutton just isn't the one.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see this play out, but it's going to be sloppy. But do you think there is a world in which this leads to Lisa Vanderpump coming back? Which she said at BravoCon, she was like, I would never come back. Well, I don't need that. Yeah. Do you think there is a world in which this is leading to that?
I mean, I've prayed on it. If God is good, it'll happen. I don't know. I want it to happen. I'm praying to God it happens. I miss her beyond words. I didn't always necessarily agree with Lisa Vanderpump, but my God, like it's so clear that the show needs her. It's so obvious, you know?
Do you think God, if heaven exists, do you think God is ever like, if some of us get to heaven and there's like, oh, Troy, great to see you. Love the podcast. Hey, the only thing that's going to ding you up here is you literally prayed to me to have Lisa Vanderpump back on the show. And there was just so many other big problems. And I was just really worried about you. And I know Ryan prayed about a couple weird things as well. Like, I sometimes wonder if God's like, what the fuck are these people doing down there?
Listen, if a TikTok star can get on stage and say that they prayed for some stupid award that nobody's ever even heard of, I feel like I pray for the housewives to be, it's an institution, you know?
Well, what are you guys in the world of blinds? What have you heard about Kyle and Morgan that have perked up your ears? Because we've been hearing about this relationship forever, and I'm not like, I don't know if it's like, obviously it's a special friendship. Obviously, Kyle, we now know, has gone through so much, and she does need somebody to lean on, and especially somebody that is not in that scene, that hasn't been there for these past 13 years and for a relationship. And I know how powerful that is when you find a friend that you can be new with. But I mean, do we think there is a possibility of them? Like, do we think it is more than a friendship, or do we think because like Kathy Hilton's put her in holiday photos now on her grid? Like, do we think there is a world in which Kyle finally takes this to the new level publicly, how we've all speculated about it? Do we think this is kind of like Kyle getting comfortable with announcing something potentially?
Honestly, as far as the Kyle Richards blinds go, to me the most interesting thing about them has always been that it's of extremely open secret that Mauricio has all these other women and he has a type, and he's kind of sloppy where he brings these women to his offices, and like everybody that like works in the service industry, like the high end service industry in Beverly Hills, knows his type, and they always say that he loves these like Instagram-y kind of girls that basically look like early Kardashians, you know, with like dark hair and like big Instagram butts and tiny waists and big boobs. Like he's a type. And I don't necessarily think that m- I don't think that Kyle is in a lesbian relationship, I'll be honest. But do I think that she is taking this opportunity to like be as messy as he's been for so long and to have a little fun with it and use it for press and maybe make him feel bad? Sure. And I honestly, like,
Yeah.
I've heard other people say, like, I would imagine he's probably with his daughters now working with him so closely, it's probably been even more messy and more sloppy and more disrespectful. So I don't necessarily blame her for being like, I'm just gonna lean in and be like a messy queen because I'm
Yeah.
always the cleanup girl who's trying to make everything seem perfect. But I don't think that she's in a lesbian relationship. I don't.
Well, I mean, that's really interesting. But then when I hear that, I think, oh my God, what if Morgan Wade is in that relationship? You know, when you're in that relationship and you totally love the person that you're friends with, but they don't love you the same way, but you'll drop everything. Like I've been in that before where I'm like, oh my God, anything that she does, I like, like, do you think then Morgan Wade is just like fucking like waiting for that moment, kind of like JT to Taylor on Southern Charm, kind of like, I'll go anywhere you want, Kyle. I love you. Like, do you then I almost feel bad for Morgan Wade.
I can totally see that, but I also think this is an amazing opportunity for her. It's such good publicity, amazing press, and I would imagine for her, it's probably not super difficult to be the girl that is like in this position of making this woman's husband like so jealous. Like it's a fun position to be in. It's a fun role to you know what I mean? And then she's got a little spot on the show where she gets to have these FaceTimes and like I don't know. I don't think it's the I just don't think that it's as deep as everybody's making it out to be. I think that they're all just kind of being messy.
Yeah. I don't know. I just find it interesting. And I think you're the same way of like that. I love doing this, but like, I don't want to be a star. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like, I want to be able to talk about this, but I don't want to be, I feel so douchey when I have to like do like some kind of influencer video or something like that. Like it makes me feel weird. And I can't imagine like, at a certain point of the day, these are real people. And I just can't ever imagine like trading off my public persona just to get more downloads or just to get more spins. But I guess anything is possible in this day and age. And it's an attention economy. And we're all vying for eyes and ears.
I didn't know who that was before any of this happened. I have never heard
Yeah,
that name
you're
in my
right. Me
life,
too. Me too.
and
Me
now
too. By the way, there.
everybody knows her.
Well, remember that movie Can't Buy Me Love with Patrick Dempsey?
Yes.
I mean, this is kind of like that. Like, I'll pay you $1,000 to be my girlfriend, pretend to be my girlfriend, and it kind of is the can't buy me love theory for me. You say you watch Southern Charm, right?
I'm deeply passionate about Southern Charm right now. It's crazy.
Okay, good, because I don't get to cover it as much on this show, but I do think this past week's episode was one of like it's been a really good season.
Yeah.
And the scene between I mean, it's really fascinating because you have Shep and Austin, which I think is like two sides of the same coin, but they're
Mhm.
arguing over behavior. You have Whitney in the scene. We find out, or Austin lets it slip, that they potentially did the hippity dippity and him and Taylor slept together. He almost slips, but he catches himself. Then you have Craig, who's somehow turned into the reliable narrator on Southern Charm. Where are you with Southern Charm right now? Because it really, a lot of the flack is given to Olivia and Taylor and their behavior when all of the men are doing fucking tap dances around these women in terms of behavior. How do you see Southern Charm this season?
So what I find so interesting about this show is that it's like the only Bravo show that's being led by straight men, and I just think that that's so interesting because it's a perspective that I personally don't ever get to see. And the thing about it is that these are the kind of guys that will say these are the exact kind of men that will say, women are so petty, women can't ever get over things. Guys, when we have arguments, we go outside and share a cigar and it's over with, and we don't have issues like this. This is what it looks like inside a group like that. Where it's like That's clearly not true. And you guys will apologize to each other every single day after you've been out drinking. And then you fight because you're not actually dealing with any of your issues. And I have always been a Craig apologist. I will say it on
I
record.
love Craig. I love Craig.
I'm obsessed with him. Anytime I've ever talked about the show, I'm like, you guys don't get it. The only reason that he gets this like dopey idiot edit is because he's surrounded by people that are uncomfortable with his quirkiness. And what they basically used to say was like, he's secretly gay, he paints his nail, he likes to sew, and you know what I mean. And it's like, it's guys like Shep that are like super insecure and are really totally like threatened by somebody like Craig, and always has been. And I just find it so interesting now that he's so angry that there's nothing that he can like deflect onto Craig, because that's what he's always done, is deflect his bad behavior on Craig and be like, well, Craig's so stupid,
Yeah.
he saves pillows. It's like, okay, well, you're a 50-year-old drunk and you wear bourbon shirts on the red carpet. Like, you're a nightmare. I mean, I fully believe that the Shep family is like a blink away from a Murdoch situation if it hasn't happened already. I'm like, you guys have buried bodies together. I'm sorry. The Shep, the men of Shep's family have buried bodies.
Well, wait, who comes out on this week on the show? Shep admits Taylor's like, yeah, I was only like pleasured probably 3 times to completion, and
Yeah.
and Shep was like, hey, I got mine. Who admits that he's a selfish lover? And then on the flip side, Austin's like, I make sure a woman's like completely pleased. I'm like, that is like. It's both weird in different ways, because then when Taylor and Austin did hook up, he was like, I got to go the extra mile just to like really pun it, because at the end of the day, he was fucking Shep. Even if he was fucking Taylor, he was fucking Shep in his mind.
Mhm.
He was fucking Shep. And Craig and Austin have a weird hang up with Shep because Shep bullied them so much. And Craig, it's so nice to finally see him break out of that fully, where I think he's really gotten to a point, maybe it's Paige's influence, maybe it's just his own confidence with the pillows. He's gotten past that, and he realized he doesn't take the bait anymore that Shep hands out.
I mean, honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. And I honestly think that they've all dated this specific kind of woman that lives in this town that thinks like every guy that she hooks up with could be marriage potential. Like, they kind of take advantage of this like kind of woman, that this like very specific kind of white woman that exists in that town. And I think that with Craig dating Paige, a woman from New York who's like, doesn't think that it's some weird thing that her boyfriend likes to sew, it doesn't mean that he's a homosexual, and even if it did, it wouldn't matter. I think that he has found power in the fact that he's like dating a woman that does not subscribe to those like old school traditional ideas that they are so used to. And honestly, I just feel like he's a nightmare. Like, he's the exact kind of man that like gets an allowance his entire life and lives off of this trust fund and is just an adult baby. Like, he really is a nightmare.
Well, I call it the Anthony Bourdain effect, in a sense. Anthony Bourdain didn't live off a trust fund, but all of these men of a certain wealth and a certain, like, they consider it like an artistic bent. Like, they read one Anthony Bourdain book or watch one of his shows, and they're like, I love food, I love to travel, I'm an adventurer. So Shep considers himself an adventurer, and he's able to have the time and money to do those things. He considers himself a beat poet, but he's a trust fund beat poet that is potentially too lazy to write the poetry.
Yeah, totally. And like every vacation that he's taken has been like under the guise of like, I can do whatever I want. It's not like he's going out and having these eat, pray, love experiences. He's just getting belligerent everywhere he goes. And it's like, okay, like, cool.
Yeah, I've gotten drunk in a lot of foreign countries, but it would be amazing. Now I want to see like what is the thing that Shep would like have an Eat Pray Love? Like what is the thing that would change Shep entirely? Like we just watched that Love Has Won, the mother god. Like what could Shep ever devote his life to a cult? Like what is the thing that Shep will change his whole worldview? But you're right, at this point, any relationship's never going to matter because he's going to be okay financially. Like he believes in himself enough that it's just never going to matter. But as you get older, you see how that behavior kind of almost makes you ugly in a sense, and
Mhm.
it's going to get worse before it gets better for him, I think.
This is another thing I was talking about last night with my friend. Like, I was thinking, if let's just say like Shep and Austin and like Whitney, I'll leave Craig out because he's like in a real relationship. But let's just say that they were like dropped in like Manhattan. It's like, do I
Yeah.
think that women would be throwing themselves off of bridges for Shep in like in Manhattan? No, I don't. I just don't see that. I think that they take advantage of such a specific kind of woman and they know how to play all the beats. You know what I mean? And it's really sick, honestly. Like, I mean, just the fact that he like Shep is such a like open, enthusiastic atheist. And I mean, I'm not a religious person at all, but then he has like pretended that he's gonna marry this woman who is like devoted to Christ. You don't fucking care about this girl. You don't care about this girl. Like they just know what to say to these kinds of women.
Well, or maybe in his head he thinks, well, I could get there someday. Like, oh, I mean, like, who knows? But I do think TV exacerbates this certain type of male. It exacerbates their bad behavior because what you say is correct. Like, even though he's rich, if Shep wasn't on television, he would have a very hard time in Manhattan. But since he
Yeah.
is on television, that makes it a completely different thing. So women that wouldn't touch this guy at all, once you're on television, that is still in the year 2023 really exciting for a certain type of person. So they're able to still kind of like create destruction wherever they go. I would include Austin, especially in this, but Austin kind of is almost a Shep 2.0, and he's like Terminator. He's like I'm a better machine. I know how to do this better than you. Like he presents himself as like he gets empathy, he gets like sympathy, he plays on people's emotions that way. So I find it interesting that he's a better version of Shep in terms of being able to get a body count on women.
First of all, you've never said anything more poetic. He truly is T2. He's the second generation Terminator. He's the liquid metal Terminator. And I will say, like, as much as as much as I shit on Shep, I will tell you something. Austin would fuck up my life. Austin would fuck me up emotionally because he is so charming at the right times. Like he has this like really sad story that is very like you want to like rescue him, you want to save him. And he even says like
Yeah.
I'm the rom-com guy, like I'm the guy from the romantic comedy. I also will say that I think that
But when you say
he
you're
has
the rom-com guy, that means you've literally fantasized about yourself. I heard that comment and I was like, that's wild for you to put that out there because you are the lead in your own movie. And it's wild because that's just not, you're like you're a Blumhouse horror film, dude.
that's why I think that he also has a tinge of Lindsay Lohan disorder. He loves the drama. He loves the up and down. I don't think that he feels like it's a real relationship unless it's a torrid love affair. It's Shakespearean. It's got to we're being torn apart and then put like it's got to be dramatic, and that also plays into his like rom-com narrative of him basically being the main character. Like he's got main character energy in the worst way, you know what I mean? And like I think
Yeah.
that he does need he can't be in anything that's like too stable.
Yeah, well, I wanted to lead this into like Olivia and Taylor because I was thinking about this over the weekend because Taylor, obviously and rightfully so, getting a lot of flack for making a really horrible decision. Of course, Austin makes it worse and like makes her the aggressor of like she took me, dude. She came at me, man. But I will say, I do think this is a little bit of the audience's fault as well, myself included, because when Taylor and Austin did a scene last season when they were like shopping, And everybody was like, oh my God, they belong together. She doesn't need to be with Shep. She needs to be with him. And we all made memes. We all talked about that idea of, oh my God, Austin needs to be with Taylor. So I will say, Taylor obviously extremely fucked up in the head, but I do think a little bit of whatever happened between them, Taylor was thinking, oh, he's the guy that will treat me right. He's the guy I should be with. Everybody says he's the guy I should be with. Do you think I'm fully up my own ass saying that? Because I just remembered that this weekend of how we were gaga about them last year.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I honestly, the way that I look at her is like she's got a little Lindsay Lohan disorder as well. She
Yeah, I mean,
clearly
that's
loves the
messy.
drama. You know what I mean?
But
Like
you
she
didn't see,
loves
I
it.
never saw that before. We never saw, like, I really didn't think of her like this at all. Like, I just didn't think she had it in her.
Mhm.
And it shows you, though, also, by the way, this is speculation, but also it shows you that she really was with Shep all those years because it's a little bit of Shep behavior.
Well, listen, you can never underestimate the girl who parades and presents herself around like a fucking like she's Bambi. I mean, it's always those girls that have the most like volcanic energy trapped beneath the surface because she has to go around all day pretending that she's a fucking this Christian Bo Peep. You know what I mean? Like, and it's
Yeah.
like really at the end of the day, like she's also just like kind of a girl that wants to like hook up and get wasted and be messy and do all the things. Like, and I really honestly I feel kind of bad for her that they're all presenting it as like you lied to us, like you claimed to be a good girl, and it turns out you're really like a whore. And like, none of us really knew. Like, oh my god, like come on.
Well, where are you with Olivia and Taylor? Because it's interesting because the men, like you said, this show is about straight men in a lot of ways, but it presents itself as also telling women's stories. And I do find it interesting that the Olivia Taylor stuff, they're obviously in this fight. And I agree with Olivia. Like, I don't know how this friendship continues. That seems like a really obvious one of don't have sex with this guy, Austin. And especially if you're talking about how to get him back, it seems like a really hard thing to come back from. And then Taylor goes, I don't want to be I don't want to be with friends with somebody I don't want to be friends with somebody that doesn't forgive. Like she almost says, "How dare you, Olivia, for not forgiving me? You're a bad person for that."
Well, I think that, like, honestly, I don't feel like any of them are living in their truth. Like, at the end of the day, like, they both want to be cool with Austin. They can't admit it. You know what I mean? Like, I think Olivia wants to
Yeah.
still be cool with him, and I unfortunately kind of agree with Austin when he says like it's about appearances. Like it's about like how is this group going to perceive me if I'm nice to him at this dinner? But then when we have moments alone, I'll flirt with him and banter and we'll be like we used to. And yes, I'll go over his house and watch movies and like we can do this like boyfriend experience thing. But then when I'm in front of everybody, I need to look like I'm a badass and like I don't take shit. So I'm going to like scream at you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also finally, in terms of Whitney, Whitney is always cracking me up in weird ways, not on purpose. Has there ever been blinds of what the fuck is Whitney's deal? I know he's a producer on the show, but it's interesting because I'm still not over the fact that Taylor sent him a suggestive picture, and especially he's a producer on the show, so I feel like that blurs lines really. Like, have you read any blinds about Whitney? Has there ever been any speculation about him and his existence?
I sort of pretend Whitney doesn't exist. Like even when he comes on screen, he makes me so uncomfortable. He reminds me of an animatronic at an amusement park. Like when he opened that door and he was wearing his little Elvis suit and like doing his little swivel with all
Yeah.
the champagne. I was like, you. I'll never forget a million years ago when Cameron said that he sleeps upside down, like hanging from the
Wait,
ceiling.
remember that scene with his foreign girlfriend where he played guitar for her when he was say, oh my god, it was so wild.
I've never read any
Um,
about Whitney, and I do not. I think the executive producer thing is so unfair because he can dip in and do weird little things and then dip out for weeks and be like, I'm working. I'm on the computer working. Doing what? What are you doing?
yeah, yeah. Hey, dude, we're almost at the hour. Do you have 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, dude. Um, uh, okay, so Southern Charm, I think it's having a great season. As we start winding down here, where are you? We're ramping up for Vanderpump Rules January 30th. We've got our first trailer for the new season. Where are, because I was trying to, and I got excited about it, but I had obviously, like a lot of us, Vanderpump exhaustion. Where are you headed into this new season? What do you think is potentially going to happen? And what do you agree about do you agree with a Tom Sandoval redemption season this close to the actual quote unquote crime?
So yes, I was experiencing Vanderpump exhaustion. I was really tired of talking about it at the end of the day. Um, I I'm excited. I will tell you that for me, I'm more excited. This is gonna sound so fucked up, but I'm more excited about the fallout of what happened last year or this year, more so than like the actual events of it. Like I'm beat to death with the events of what happened. I'm interested in seeing how this like shakes out because when it all started happening and Ariana kept getting like endorsement deals and deals and offers and whatever, in my mind I was like, how long until they're not okay with that? Like how long until a Sheena or a Lala is like, okay, well, all right, bitch, Dancing with the Stars,
Yep.
Broadway, like when does it end? Like
Too
you
much.
are,
You've
it's too
gotten
much.
too much.
So that's what I'm excited to see that fallout because I'm like, there's no way that you can pretend to be happy for her through all of this stuff. You just can't. Like,
Yes.
and you know what I mean? And I was so happy to see my
Well,
old school Sheena back, like making it about her. That's so healing to me.
well, that's what I think is like Vanderpump Rules. If you take it away, if you stop looking at the show as a bunch of people that work at a bar, start looking at the show as a group of influencers that are
Mhm.
fighting over brand deals, that are not used to having success, and all of a sudden they were thrust into the spotlight again for things that they've done the entirety of the run. But one person has shined brightly more so than any of the other women on that show at that point, and it could have been any of them. In fact, Lala seems like she has a bug up her butt of, why didn't this, it's like, I love that she's like, why, like, oh my God, she's God. And it almost seems like Lala is frustrated that she didn't get the same kind of shine from Randall Emmett. And it's like, you're never going to get that shine because we didn't believe in Randall Emmett to begin with. We started to believe in Tom Sandoval.
Right. And it's that thing, like you said, with reality stars too, where it's like, well, I've shared so much. Like, if we're gauging this based on like what has been exposed on the show, everybody has an argument, you know? And I just think like there's no way that that can go on forever of them just being unapologetically head over heels, washing her feet with their hair, in love with Ariana. It can't last forever in this group. Um, and then to answer your Sandoval question, listen, this show needs villains. Tom Sandoval is a great villain, and I'm not saying that I want to like get lunch with Tom. I don't, but like I enjoy Tom's brand of villain and I enjoy his brand of cringe. And obviously a lot of people do because every time he goes outside it goes viral and people love reposting him doing embarrassing shit out in WeHo. I love it. And I'm ready for more Tom Sandoval on my screen.
Well, he's a reluctant villain though. So it's interesting if somebody that is not fully used to being presented as a villain. So there is
Mhm.
this thing where you can tell he's angry about it, but he loves it at the same time. Like he
Yeah.
loves getting his picture taken, but he's upset that this is why it's happening. Like so it's that is the thing that I find fascinating, that push pull that and that's what how I love watching the shows of like behind the scenes of he's having to lean into this, and I think that's interesting to watch and to find that fight. And so I'm excited to watch this season for that. I just wonder that he did something that a lot of people don't. He didn't go away. He stayed out there. Like even when this broke, he went on tour. If you compare him to Carl from Summer House, Carl disappeared after the Lindsay stuff. Tom Sandoval doubled, tripled down. And at this point, you can't argue that Tom Sandoval's not having as much. He's having as much success as the rest of the cast members minus Ariana. Like he's making money off this as well now.
Well, I think that he's the difference between a reality star and an ensemble cast member of a reality show. Rachel was a cast member of a show for a season, whereas Tom Sandoval is Whether people want to admit it or not, he's a reality star. Carl is not a reality star, and he never really has been, and I don't think that he like knows how to be. But Tom
Yeah.
Sandoval is a star of a reality show, and that just is what it is. And I think that when people in his position go through stuff like that, they know better than to disappear if they want to like turn it into the next thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What do you think about having Jax back?
Um, I mean, I was okay with Jax not being there. Like, I was over once we saw. I will tell you, I've said this on your show before. Once we saw Jax riding a riding mower, something switched in my brain where I thought, "We're done. It's done. It's over." Like, I'll never be. Now that he's in his King of the Hill era, I'll never go.
Well, it's so funny because Jax is trying to present it of like, Jax is back, and he's trying to like lean into I'm a villain. But it is funny because at the end of the day, he actually is a villain, but him leaning into it is so meta because he's like, hey guys, no matter what I do, remember it's a character I play on screen. So he can always blame it on that. He can blame it on the
Yeah.
meta-ness of I'm playing a character, which I find fascinating as well. Can Tom Sandoval destroy your life just like Austin can, or is it a different thing?
No, maybe at one point in the past, I would say like years and years ago when it felt like he was like, I don't know, the best like man of the options on that show, maybe. But I would say in the past like 5 years, absolutely not. No. If anything, it would be James Kennedy, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, listen, are you and Kelly Beyond the Blinds, are you feeling pressure because the artist formerly known as Raquel, Rachel Leviss, is dropping her podcast in January? So I feel like this is a direct head to head with a lot of us in the podcasting game. How nervous are you and Kelly? Are you already in meetings about how do we make Beyond the Blinds better? We're going to take a huge hit in January. Have you had these discussions?
Listen, I'm very excited to see what she says on her show, and it could be interesting. I think that it's going to be really good.
By the way, like I said, I'll listen to the first two episodes. I'll listen to the first two. And Bethany Frankel is the Frankelnator is producing Rachel's podcast, which I mean, listen, for you with Bethany, you must have had a hard year watching everything that Bethany went through.
Oh, oh God. Bethany and I have had truly the most tumultuous relationship. Like Bravo missed the cameras should have been filming me and Bethany because my God, have I don't know if I would say I've turned on Bethany, but it's been difficult to watch that woman.
She makes it hard. She makes it hard to stand her in 2023. And I feel like the reality reckoning, which she keeps pushing, I still just don't. I'm still at the end of the day, I just want to be like, okay, what do you want? What is it exactly? What do you want? Tell me now in two sentences what you need to happen for this to like stop. Like what do you need? Because I still don't understand what it is exactly, even after listening to her speak about it for so long.
And also like what are you going to change? Because now all of your contracts for your shows have been made public. The shows that you executive produce and creative and came up with the creative for, and it's all the same shit. It's people's likeness being stolen, it's money being stolen from people, it's shady, weird, like we can install cameras here, here, and here, and you don't have to know. It's all kinds of weird shit that she was also pushing. So it's like, what are you doing to change these things? Because you're a producer. You're the big shot with Bethany. So like, you know what I mean? You're the one that left Bravo and said, I don't need this anymore because I'm going to make my own shows. So what are you doing for those? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. She better have the fairest contracts in the business. But I will say she's done some good. She brought Nene back to Bravo. I think we're going to see Nene back on Bravo in some form. So she did do good. So I'm excited about that. But also in 2024, I'm excited about you as always and Beyond the Blinds. This thing is a juggernaut. When are we going to get new tour dates? Because you guys, I mean, you're like the Grateful Dead at this point. You're touring everywhere. What can we expect from Beyond the Blinds in 24?
Well, we have a really, really great touring manager right now, and 2023 was like a little bit of a struggle with the touring stuff. Like we were like figuring it out and like
Is it
getting
the
our
same as Tom Sandoval's touring? Is it Tom Sandoval's touring manager?
yeah, we just show up everywhere and do covers of songs and then get and then walk off stage. Um,
we do covers of blinds, like
yeah.
classic blinds.
But yeah, we're figuring it out, and we have a list, an official list of cities that we're going to be going to. The dates aren't confirmed because we have to like, our tour manager has to confirm the dates with the venues, but it's like good. It's all over the place. It's a lot of places that people have wanted us to come to, places like Texas and Atlanta, and it's just going to be really fun. And if you've never been to a Beyond the Blind show, every single one of them is completely different because we cover somebody different each show. So you can come to all of them and get wasted and walk out with a gaggle of friends. And yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
like a
really fun.
community. That's what it's all about, is the community that you guys have created, and you get to steer that ship. But it's a community of amazing fans that really just love it. And I like that thought. And I felt that about BravoCon, is like, you could go by yourself and walk out with a handful of friends after going to one of your shows.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners go alone. I actually had one of my friends, my friend Katie, who I've been talking about, she went alone because she would have gone with me, but I'm, on the stage. So I was like, no, you'll be fine. Like, I'm telling you, you're going to leave with a group of friends. And she still talks. That was like a year ago. She still talks to a lot of the people that she met at the show. Like, people leave with a Yaya sisterhood.
Yeah. Well, we had a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants reunion this weekend, so I'm going to think you guys are the podcast of the Traveling Pants, and wherever you go brings in people. And then, so guys, Beyond the Blinds, of course, you're already subscribed, but if not, go subscribe, check it out. It will be your new favorite obsession. 2 episodes a week, I believe, and then a very active Patreon as well. And then to leave, I just need your thoughts on something that just broke 5 hours ago. Demi Lovato and Jordan Jutes Lutz are engaged. Are you very happy that Demi Lovato is engaged? I believe this is she's been engaged before. Are you excited about this new engagement for Demi?
I'm excited for anything that Demi Lovato does publicly because it's always just so silly and odd and strange and like fun. Demi Lovato is a fun celebrity. People can talk shit about Demi, but like it's fun to have Demi pop up in the news. So we're all rooting for you, gal. I'm rooting for Demi. Absolutely. I'm excited for her.
The only thing that bothered me was that he calls himself Jutes, Jutes. Like that's his. I was like, well, maybe, let's dial it. If your nickname is Jutes, I don't know, for some reason that kind of stuck in my craw. But Demi Lovato is one of those people you root for. Heart Attack is one of my favorite songs of all time. It is such a bop. And it is one, even if I don't understand fully Renee Rapp, I will always understand Demi Lovato. And I will understand the pull and the allure of Troy McEady and his talent, his unique talent, which we will continue to see the ascension, the rise. He will never have a Puff Daddy, a Jay-Z moment. He is good as gold. And just really quickly, you started this off. You're in Jersey. You're at a resort in Jersey, you guys. So that's why the Wi-Fi was a little bad. Why did you go to a resort in Jersey, Troy? You're not hiding out. Why are you there?
Well, because I am a real big, like, the TikTok girls will get me to do anything. And if I see enough people on TikTok being like, this is the best undiscovered location ever. You are never going to believe this undiscovered gem. Like, I'll go. So I'm here because I saw a bunch of girls on TikTok talking about it, and it's honestly iconic.
Have you gotten to the TikTok of the people doing the 9-month cruise?
Oh, I'm obsessed. I've made sure to follow every single person. I want to see what happens to descent.
Well, Troy, I feel like that if you do, I feel like that's your destiny, is a 9-month cruise you'll be podcasting off of potentially in 2025. Troy, thank you. I know you are on vacation, so thank you for taking the time with all of us. I hope you had as good of a time as I did. It's always a fascinating conversation, and I could have done this for hours more. But thank you for always taking time for us and me, and I hope you have the best end of the year and the best 2024.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan. You too, and thanks for having me. This was so much fun.